Rahsaan Freeman is going to talk about mergers, acquisitions, former banker, highly respected banker, and I love his presentation. And so get ready because you're going to engage with him. You're not going to sit back and drink your water. And
there's water.
Yeah, where's the? I was going to say, where's the water at?
Somewhere. But anyway, Rahsaan, I'll let you take over and take it from here.
Thanks, Thomas. I'm Rahsaan Freeman. I've been in the banking and finance world for 22 plus years now. Time flies. And I have experienced a whole gamut of business experiences over that time frame. I started as a banker, doing little small deals, $50,000, $100,000 little mom and pop kind of deals, escalated to corporate size, 9-figure leverage buyout type deals. And so what I learned over that time is it's all the same science. I don't care how many zeros you add on a deal, it's the same science. There's just a little more risks and covenants that get involved on the banking side on the bigger deals, but really it's the same deal. And I knew a long time ago in 2004 that I wanted to be in the M&A world as an investment banker like I am today. I put this plan together with my partner back in 2004. And it took us till 2014 to really fully execute it because we had to develop a certain type of network, we had to get a certain type of acumen, and to go out and attack this business. And then economically, we knew some things needed to happen. One of those big economic events that are happening right now, and it's going to be going on for the next 10 to 15 years, are the baby boomers retiring. Okay, so you got 86 million of our population retiring over the next 10 to 15 years. Okay, I'm a Gen Xer, so my generation, there's only 54 million of us. Obviously, there's a big discrepancy in how many people there are to buy these businesses, right? So the U.S. has never been in this position before. So we're going to have an economic event that will start occurring over the next couple years and go on for a while, and it's going to be too much inventory, not enough buyers. You've seen it in real estate and other industries, but you've never seen it in business. All right, so what does that mean for you guys as entrepreneurs and myself, because I'm an entrepreneur? It's serious opportunities to purchase businesses at large discounts. And you could build a business portfolio in a short period of time that could, net you some really good returns. What does that mean? So I'll tell you what one of my clients is doing right now. An example of a deal that started, 10 months ago, and we're going to be closing here at the end of June. All right. And what it is I have a buyer that I represented as a banker, and I helped them through 3 different purchase and sales of businesses. And he was actually an ex-military guy, very driven, and he was an engineer. He worked for Boeing for many years in their black box division, creating stuff for the military after he left the military, and just a really smart guy. But he didn't have the financial side of things down. You're never going to know everything, right? And that's why it's important to surround yourself with the folks in the areas that you're maybe deficient in, where they can help. So that's how I ran into him in the banking world. He didn't understand how all the financing side of things worked and how to put these deals together. And over the years, I helped him through that. Well, now he's on to the next one. In this particular business, it's interesting. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but it's a little service-based business that I would have never known existed until it got referred to me to sell. And it's a company that services a particular industry, but it can service a whole lot more. And they lease commercial equipment. It's a specific type of equipment that's necessary. It's what we call a consumer staple. A consumer staple is something that it doesn't matter what the economy is doing, it's always steady Eddie. Toilet paper, right? Doesn't matter if the economy is crashing, you still need toilet paper. So it's always going to be purchased. Well, this business is like toilet paper for a specific industry. It's not going away. It's always going to be around. So the company it's the smallest acquisition he's done. And it's owned by a guy that's in his 70s. He's a baby boomer. He has no kids. He had no transition plan, which most small business owners don't. They decide their transition plan the day they decide to sell. And it's crazy because there's so much that goes into these deals, even little deals. You have a liquidity event, and you got to do something with that money. You need wealth management people, tax strategy, legal, all that stuff. So this company generates about $350,000 in revenue. Not a ton, right? But it nets 150 to 180 for the last 10 years. I have 10 years of historical data, and the guy's owned it for 30 years. Just steady Eddie, 4% growth per year. The guy hasn't marketed the business in 17 years. Wow. Right? That's what I said. Shit, wow, okay. This is interesting. My guy's gonna really like this. And so When I proposed this to my buyer, he looked at it and did the same thing. He went, "What? Yeah, I'm all over this." Here's what his strategy is. And this is where he's very disciplined and he's strategic. And he got a lot of that from the military. So you guys, one thing the military does very well is it teaches you structure. When you're going to be in business, you need to have some type of structure, and you got to have your strategy in place to really execute at a high level. You can get lucky, maybe. Some people do. But for the most part, for your highest chance of success, you need to have a plan in place and a strategy to execute that. So the strategy that we laid out, we talked this through for a while. There's 36 other distributors throughout the U.S. that are doing this business, and there's only 2 manufacturers in the country that supply these 36 distributors. Both of them happen to be on the West Coast. One of them happens to be here in Washington. We got an introduction from our seller to the manufacturer locally. Guess what's happening now? He's buying her out. And he's buying her out on a monthly stipend basis. It's X amount of $1,000 per month over the course of 2 years, and then she's gone. And she's the manufacturer. Well, my buyer's background is heavy into manufacturing. He took 10 minutes of walking her shop and realized, holy crap, there's all these inefficiencies to change. And then I looked at the financial side of it and went, oh my God, there's all these accounting things to change, and your balance sheet's going to look like this once we have 3 months of fixing this, which is going to help him for lending, all these things, part of our strategy to really put him in a high chance of success. So that deal is going to probably close literally 30 to 45 days after this first distribution piece gets picked off. Then once he owns that manufacturer, he has the distribution list of all the other distributors throughout the US. Then the other manufacturer that's down in California, we've already flown down there, walked their shop. He's 76 years old. He has 5 kids. One of them is an entrepreneur, and he happens to own his own business that supplies Costco with all the, they do all the linen and everything for the yard furniture that they sell. So he's 400 employees. And the business that Dad has 15. He's not taking on Dad's business, right? He's like, yeah, I'm not buying Dad's business. You need to sell it to somebody. So we already have that deal that's getting worked out. And that'll probably happen in the course of the next, probably 10 to 12 months. It's a little bigger operation. But if he can pick off, his goal is to get 10 of the distributors out of the 36 in the next 12 months. And so many of these guys are, like I said, are baby boomers. They haven't really done the necessary things to really grow the business. They don't even market. You can take this business into 5 other sectors, and they're only focusing on one. And my buyer happens to have relationships in 2 out of those other 5 sectors. One of them is the military, where they need this piece of machinery, and the military won't lease it, but they'll buy it at a probably inflated cost, and then he'll sign them up on a service contract. Right? So his strategy is brilliant. And if he just gets 10 distributors over the course of the next 12 months, not even counting any of the manufacturing, and they're all doing about the same amount of business, about 300,000-ish in revenue with a 40 or 50% margin, just do the math. 300,000, 10, 3 million, netting 1.5 million. Win, right? That's pretty good. And this is an example of just one of many deals that are going to be coming to your doorsteps if you're looking. Opportunities are just passed on from one person to the next. I see it all the time, and I've brought deals to people and they go, oh yeah, I don't know, and then the next person jumps on it and they kill it. And they're like, oh God, I should have done that. Yeah, I know you should have. But the next opportunities will come. Are you going to jump on them? And so you're going to have your radars up or work with people that are in the industry that can identify these deals. There are businesses that you can go online and they're listing sites and you can look them up, but the really good deals don't ever get listed. Like this one. I never listed it because I already had the buyers in place. I have a network of buyers that I'm always expanding, and they're always telling me what they're looking for, so I'm always kind of on the hunt looking in certain sectors and certain industries. But this particular one, like I said, I would have never known to look, and I'm in the industry. I would have never known to look for this little business that is silly, what they do. It's so simple, but man, it's a nice little business. And so there are a ton of those, like I said, and the millennials, who are actual bigger generation than the boomers, there are 92 million of them, they're too young to take on these businesses, and then they don't want to. They don't want to work jobs that they actually have to use, hammer stuff or work in factories. They don't want it. They want to do stuff with technology, which is great, but what does that mean? As I said, opportunities, more for the entrepreneurs that are out there looking. Another deal that I'm working on right now is it's a manufacturer of light fixtures. It's on the West Coast here. And the sellers, they're not business people. Most small business owners are not business people. I'm not saying that to knock them. They didn't go to school and get a master's in finance, marketing, business entrepreneurship. They started a service or building a particular widget that they loved to make, and it's blossomed into a $20 million business now, or whatever it is. And now they have HR, and they have marketing, and a CFO, and all these other things that they don't want to deal with. And they don't have fun anymore. So they're like, I'm ready to exit. And that's kind of what's going on with this company. It's a husband and wife. He loved light fixtures, and he's ready to go. He's already made so much money, and he's very, very liquid. The company's doing, I don't know, about $6 million in revenue, and he's netting he's got about a $1.8 million EBITDA. If you've never heard that term before, that's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. So as bankers, and Thomas knows this, that's kind of what we focus on because we want to see really what the company's making. Your tax return doesn't give you that number, but when we add everything back in, that's really what we see. And that's a very good EBITDA in a slimmer margin business. So the guy's, been pretty efficient. Guess what he's going to sell his business for? Anybody? He's generating a $1.8 million bottom line off of somewhere between 6 and 8 million in revenues. What do you think he's selling the business for?
3 times EBITDA.
So that would be almost $6 million, right? No, 2.2 million. I said, why are you selling it for 2.2 million? He doesn't need the money. He doesn't have kids to transition it to. He's liquid already, and the tax implication of him going over like $2.5 million or something, it was like a 50%. It's because of the way he's run his business. He didn't capitalize expenses. He didn't do things the way he was supposed to. If he would have had proper consultation, when I meet somebody and they're going to sell their business and it's going to be 3 years out, I can fix a lot of things to really put them in a good situation. But most of the time, that's not how it works.
So for him, it's either sell it at 2.2 or sell it at way more than the market bears. And
Yeah.
in the middle is just not going to make sense.
Exactly. It's all math. So a lot of what I deal in is logic and analytics, and I take emotion off the table. And a lot of these folks get really emotional about their businesses, and I have to fight to get that off the table so we can make an educated decision based on the data we have. It's simple, not easy, but it's very simple to analyze a business. And then the intangible parts of the business and what you can do with it, what you bring to the table. If you've got this network that provides all this other value that they didn't have, the company's worth more to you because you can do more with it. So you might be willing to pay more for it. That's what we call a strategic buyer. But in this particular scenario, yeah, $2.2 million. Do you think that deal is going to hit the listing market? No. I already have 2 buyers lined up for it that are in my network that look for business opportunities like this because they can get in, buy this company at $2.2 million. That's already worth almost 6. I mean, if you're using a 3 times EBITDA, 3 times multiple in that sector, it's actually about 4.5 is what most of the businesses sell for. So it's worth more than that. And he's done a good job of running it. So it's going to be a nice windfall for these guys that want to take it over, run it for 2 years, grow it a little more, and then they want to sell it for over $10 million. And it's a realistic strategy where that can happen. And they're not using their own money. They have investors that I lined them up with. And so the investors, they looked at it and they said, okay, we take on all the risk from a financial standpoint. You guys are going to take on all the operational side of these things. We are securing our money with all the assets of the business. So they have dollar for dollar coverage, 1-to-1. So if something did happen and these guys failed, they could go auction off everything and get at least their money back, right? So it's a very secure position for the investors I lined them up with. But their return, their cash on cash return on their money, based on the numbers we've put together over the course of 2 years, is about 160% return. Do you think that's pretty attractive? I do. Yeah, it crushes the market, right? And so when you're looking at the opportunities that come across, you guys, and you can invest your money in the stock, you can invest your money in real estate, or you can do business. And in my experience, and I've played in all of them, business is where you can just do extremely well and set up a legacy for your family. At any time too, by the way, guys, ask questions. So this is interactive. I'm going to talk for a little bit more, then I'm going to start asking you guys questions. Back to the guy that is buying the first little business that services a particular industry. So this industry has all kinds of other businesses that services it. So another strategy that we're laying out are what other small companies can be acquired where you can kill two birds with one stone. One of them happens to be a window washing business, right? Probably doesn't sound too sexy, but this window washing business is about a 25% margin business. And he has a lot of the same clients that, with the business that my guy's buying. So we're starting to pinpoint some of these window washing guys. We got one of them already, that when he's sending out his guys to service the particular machine of the company he's buying, they can do the windows at the same time. And now you start to get economies of scale. Everybody, have you heard that term before? Where if I own a business, if I own one shop today that does X, and then I buy another one, and then I buy another one, do I need a CPA for all three of them? No, I can use one CPA, right? So if the other two had CPAs, now you eliminate those two and you're down to one. So those are where you build efficiencies in the business. That's the economies of scale. As you start to grow a portfolio business, the example I just laid out for you guys is an economies of scale example. He's looking for other businesses to bolt on to the current one he's buying. That's going to make it way more valuable down the road when he wants to sell it. But he has now his employees, as he trains them, he can train them to do 3, 4, 5 jobs at once if they all work together. And those are more things that you look for in the business world, or what are the synergies that you can apply to this business, maybe with your specific background, or like I said, the network. Networking is huge, and it's key in any successful business. You really need to get out there and network and talk to folks. Did you have a question? Oh, all right. Everything making sense? Is there any terms that I've used that anybody needs some more clarification on? Okay. So I have a question for you guys. What do you think the best way is to start thinking about and finding these opportunities on your own? Anybody? Bueller?
Sounds like we have to call Rahsaan.
You can. You can call guys like me, obviously. But let's say I'm not in the picture, right? And you're getting started, and you're trying to figure out, how the heck do I even start researching these things? Did you have a...
Researching or just finding people that want to sell their businesses?
All the above.
I know, like Craigslist, a lot of business owners that are looking to retire, get out of their business will, list something on Craigslist. But outside of that, I don't know of anything that's more formal.
So Craigslist, definitely. But Craigslist, again, is kind of like a lot of the listing sites, and it's a free one. So do you think you're going to find high-level opportunities there, or
You're going to wade through
a lot of crap, right? Yeah, you are. But you can still go there. I think a more effective use of your time would be to, you can get registered. There are things like CCIM is one deal, and I can't remember the specifications of what you have to do to have access to their info, but CCIM is a certified commercial investment member, and they have access to every business in the state, in any state really. And there are other organizations like this that you can look up and say, hey, what are similar companies to CCIM? You can Google it and find a lot of different groups, but you can get a SIC code, and a SIC code is how businesses are identified. And I can't remember what SIC stands for. Do you remember, Thomas?
No.
I don't even. We've used it for years. As bankers, we speak in acronyms. Everything's 3 letters, but we don't know what it really means.
knows what you're talking about, I'm sure.
Okay, perfect.
Can you spell out its SIC?
SIC is SIC. SIC code. You'll hear that, or you'll hear NAICS, NAICS. I don't remember what that stands for either.
The I stands for industry, I think.
Something like that, yeah. Yep. But NAICS or NAICS and SIC are 2 classifications that businesses fall under. In a tax return, it'll tell you what their SIC code is or their NAICS code. But when you're in the CCIM database or any of these other business databases, you type in the SIC code. Let's say it's manufacturing of commercial equipment or something, right? And you punch it in, and you can drill down to a specific zip code. So you can say, I just want to look for businesses in the Tacoma zip codes, and you punch them in, and it'll pull up a ton of deals. You can specify it down to revenues, all kinds of stuff. Now, the information is only as accurate as how it's supplied, and sometimes you'll see financials in there and they're not accurate, but at least it gives you a good estimate of what the company's doing, how they're generating revenue, client base, stuff like that. That's how I have found a lot of businesses for my business owners, the guys that are entrepreneurs looking for companies to buy, and then I just start calling them. I pull them up, I have the numbers to the owners in there, And I just start calling them. Hey, are you interested in selling your business? And I'm telling you, I'm doing this for a long time. Almost every business is for sale. It really is. It just depends on the number. And how you come about those numbers is different for everybody. As I said earlier, strategic buyers will be willing to pay more for a company. So when I list a business, I don't ever put a number on it. I write up what's called an offering memorandum, an OM, and it gives you all the financial data on the business, what they're doing and everything, and I go, what are you willing to pay for this? And then usually their financial folks crunch the numbers and go, oh, we think it's worth X. And then we see, where it's at. I pitched one of those where I valued the business at $10 million. It was a steel manufacturing company, and that's what it was worth, really, with the assets and the revenue that it generated. And I took it to another company, it was an ex-client of mine that was 3 times their size. They were a competitor. And the company over here that I was going to be listing did product A and B. And these guys over here did product A and B, but then they also did C through F. They had more things to offer. So I came to them with this deal. It was 2 brothers and their financial group. It was a table like this and then me. And I said, okay, what are you guys willing to pay for this? I said, give us 30 minutes. And the financial guys all left while I was talking to the 2 brothers. And they came back and they said, we won't pay a penny more than $15 million. How'd you come up with that number? I'm thinking, what did I miss? Oh, I didn't have access to their information, right? So for them, they looked at it and they said, well, we can take out competition that's been here for 40 years, buy their book of business basically, and now we can cross-sell products C through F to this book who is already buying these products. They need these services. And they estimated that 15% of the book was already buying their stuff, but if they could just get an extra 10% of that business, their bottom line just went, exponential growth, right? So I ran a financial model showing somebody putting 25% down, financing at X interest rate, break even in 4 years and 8 months. Their break even was 2 years and 2 months. And so I went back to my seller and said, hey, what if I got you $13 million? He's like, you think you can do that? Maybe. Went back to the buyers and said, hey, what if it was 13? They're like, what? You can cut down to, yeah. And so we're closing this in about 18 months. These guys are getting $3 more million. These guys are getting $2 million less, and these guys are going to be buying more. And the extra $2 million, I had a CPA, the CPA of my sellers, run numbers. The extra $2 million wasn't going to really benefit them. It was going to be more of a tax implication on them to do it that way. And I kind of talked them through all that. I said, we could push it up and do this, but it sounds like it's not going to be in your benefit. And they're setting up a trust for their kids and all these other things. So I don't decide these things on my own. I have a lot of advisors, wealth management folks, tax guys, legal, everything. And then we all work as a team to figure out what's the best plan of attack to make these deals, work and provide the most value at the table. And so there's, I can give you so many more deals. There's so many. Another thing I should talk about, Thomas and I were talking about this, is blue ocean strategies. You guys ever heard of that? Blue ocean strategy is when you buy a company that's in a mature industry, a mature sector that it's been around for a long time and it's just putting along and there's no room for innovation and growth, right? So if you're going to pick off a company that's in a sector like that, you want to make sure it's like a consumer staple or something that's going to be around for a while that can't get taken out. I'll give you an example. Cirque Du Soleil. Okay, so the circus. When we were all younger and we went to the circus, what was it? It was Barnum and Bailey's, and they had elephants and they had certain acts in the show. And what happened in the circus world is PETA came out and really started hammering them on the animal care. And then certain acts that everybody came to see, the performers started asking for astronomical numbers. They were the quarterback, right, on a football team. Well, I want the most money. And they had to figure out, how do we make this work? And then the margins just kept doing this and this and this and this and this, right? And so the circus industry was failing, going away. What happened? A bunch of guys from France got together and they came up with this idea for Cirque Du Soleil. It's all human performers, no animals. You don't have to have animal care now and food, all this stuff, right? All these expenses just went bye-bye. And they pitched it to 7 different large venture capital groups. And the 7th one, the first 6 said, circus, it's not going to work. And the 7th group said, yeah, this is cool. This can work. It's a whole new strategy on a mature sector that now you've reinnovated it, and now you're like in a startup industry where you have all these years of the phases of growth before you get to a mature area. And look at Cirque Du Soleil now. I mean, it's huge, right? So I'll give you another real life client example. I have a guy who's looking at purchasing 30 tanning salons, right? Tanning's mature, and it's got a negative connotation to it, even though it's expected to grow 2.2% over the next 5 years. It's tanning, right? Oh, it can cause cancer to your skin. It's bad, and there's all these different reports out there. And then now you have to be 18 or older, and in certain states, so it's starting to kind of change, and it's getting tougher for the tanning businesses to make money. And so a lot of them are consolidating. So my buyer has a medical background, and he's tied in with plastic surgeons, skincare docs, hormone replacement therapy doctors, all this stuff. So he looked at this deal and he went, what if I turned him into image centers? I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I have all these connections. And tanning is starting to introduce some of these things already. And this is what's fun about my job. I learn all this stuff about all these different industries that I never knew, right? It's always new, always learning. The tanning industry, they've started to use red light therapy. Any of you ever heard of that? So red light therapy was created by NASA. All right, so when the astronauts would go into space, they were trying to figure out how do we grow vegetation for these guys up there, right? Well, that's how they came up with red light therapy. A side effect of the red light therapy was the astronauts, when they were up there in space, because there's no gravity, they'd have serious atrophy in their body, right? You're not getting any kind of gravitational pull on you. You couldn't work out, so their joints would be messed up. When they started introducing red light therapy, the astronauts were coming back healthier, and they were going, what's going on? What did we change? And it was the red light therapy, that they were growing the vegetation in, and they were exposed to it, so their bodies got increased collagen production, which takes away wrinkles and scars and all these other things, right? So NASA came up with this, and then the tanning industry kind of implemented it into beds, and you can do red light therapy every single day as much as you want. There's no negative connotation on it. It doesn't affect you negatively. It just helps you. So what this guy's doing is he said, okay, I'm going to go meet with my plastic surgeon guys that I know and my hormone replacement therapy guy and the skin docs and talk to them about this. And what they came up with is a joint venture strategy where the doctors are going to, if a plastic surgeon operates on somebody, they could have a scar, whatever it is. Maybe they have their chest operated on, and they've got this big, line down their chest, and people are really conscious about it, and they'd love to have that go away. So they can go get red light therapy right after their surgery, and can potentially, and they've done all these studies on this, and people have done this, it can almost nullify the scarring. Everybody's different. Your skin will react differently, but it's a natural referral progression that all of these doctors will have with my client. And so now he's going to have access to a couple 100,000 person database between all these doctors that they're going to set up referral packages and discounts back and forth. So anybody needing medical work that comes into the salons, they can get referred through them, and they're going to get discounted packages for plastic surgery, Botox, whatever it is. And vice versa. They operate on somebody or they do Botox and say, hey, you're going to heal faster if you get red light therapy. Boom. You guys can see the natural kind of referral progression there. So there's 30 of these salons that he's going to be changing. And he's going to test this in this one market where he's looking to buy this. And then his model is scalable. And the investors that I've lined him up with are kind of like the Cirque Du Soleil guys. They're like, this could be huge. We like this. We have medical experience. Cool. If this works here in this test market, we'll throw X amount of $1 million at it for your growth. And then he can just start picking off franchises in states that he believes he could have a lot of success in. And again, he's doing this without any of his money. But he's proven experience, he's got a good following. You don't just get money, without some kind of track record. Maybe on smaller deals, and that's where you can cut your teeth and get going. But he's got some really good backers now and can execute the strategy. And what's crazy, the numbers behind it, is you got 30 salons. He figured he can add $3,000 of additional revenue per store per month, all right? So it's $30,000, $3,000, $90,000 a month, $600,000 a year in the first year. And if you're just using a multiple of 3, like Thomas mentioned earlier, which actually it's a higher multiple, but if you just use 3, you just added $1.8 million in value to the business in 1 year. That's significant, right? And now think of it on a very, very large scale when he starts expanding, and he gets these backers behind him. And I'm positive he'll execute this strategy. So those are some examples of, like I said, deals that I'm working on right now. I see quite a bit of opportunities, on a weekly basis. They don't always pencil. Sometimes I get companies and I run the numbers and I go, oh God, this is a sinking ship. In order for somebody to take this on, you really have to have a whole bunch of other synergies to make it make sense. They don't always fall into place like this. But man, there is going to be a lot of them that will, and you got to have the radar up if you want to be in business for yourself. Questions so far?
Yeah. All the transactions you're having, I mean, is it bank financing? How
20% of them are bank finance.
20%?
Only 20%, yeah. And being an ex-banker, right?
Yeah.
I thought, oh yeah, I'm a banker. I don't know how to finance all these deals. I have connections in all the banks, and we can get these done. No, there's private money. The economy is kind of doing this, and we're expected to hit another double-dip recession. We'll see what happens. But even if we do, there's still a ton of investors out there that are liquid, and they're looking for deals. And a lot of people have the same access to information that I do, and they know what's coming. They just don't have the inside to get these companies before they hit the market, but they're ready. And they're just looking. They're like, man, I got to find some more of these deals to put money into. It's either the stock market, real estate, or business. And if you understand business, man, people are gonna win big in the not too distant future. So yeah, bank financing. There's not a lot of it. That little deal that I talked about, the first one, that is actually going to be bank financed. He's putting some of his own money down, and he's going to bank finance it. And we're not even going SBA, going conventional. 85% loan to value, which is not normal. In the conventional scheme of things, typically you'd have to put probably 30% down, 25 at least. We're getting 85% from a local bank on a 5-year term with a 20-year AM. Guess what the interest rate is? 2.75%.
Shoot, that's pretty money.
First Citizens Bank. They're buying the market, and so having a background in banking and knowing everybody's appetite does definitely help, and it's valuable to my clients. So it's good to know who can do what and where you can get deals done. But yeah, didn't even have to go SBA.
So besides doing research through the CCIM and the SIC codes and that kind of thing, what type of networking circles do you want to frequent? Is there certain attorneys and bankers and people like you that you really want to start trying to connect with?
Yes.
Because it seems to me that's really where you're going to pick up a lot of these leads.
Definitely. So let's say you wanted to buy a manufacturing company. You just didn't know what though, and you needed more education on it. They have manufacturing guilds and groups and associations, or if you wanted to be a builder, right? They have I can't remember what the main building association is. Do you remember, Thomas?
Home Builders Association, HBA.
Or Master Builder.
Yeah, Master Builders. There you go. Yeah, Master Builders. I mean, there is an organization
Yeah.
for just about any industry that you want to look into. And now, since we have everything online, you can just Google, hey, I want to find associations for service-based, financial services businesses or whatever it is. And they have functions, they have events. If you're looking to just do a startup, they have startup places. I just came from New Orleans where I was at an event called Collision, where it was all entrepreneurs and all investors looking to invest in startups. And so it was just pitching every day for 5 weeks. And then they had all these different stages. They had live pitches going on where you could watch and see what's happening and learn. And then they had different stages every day. The first day was awesome because they had the sports stage. So I met Tiki Barber. He's got a company. I'm networking with him. He's got a company called Thuzio. He's looking for some deals and companies to invest in. And I met a couple current NFL players, Tyler Eifert and Larry English was there. And just it was cool. It was fun, and it's cool to see a lot of the athletes starting to come into the world now of investing because they know they're not going to be playing forever. Their average career is 3-4 years, and they need to do stuff with their money because 68% of them go bankrupt 2 years after they're done. And so that was like the first day, and the second day they had all these bigwig tech people that have done really well, and it was cool. So there's events for everything, and there's organizations for everything. It just depends on what you want to look at. I, myself, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm in the process of buying a company with my partners. And for me, I don't care what business it is. I don't care what sector it's in. I look at cash flow and then the opportunity for growth. It could be owl manure. I don't care. And I say that because guess what? I met an owl manure guy. And his company generates $6 million in EBITDA off $30 million in revenues. And the guy's not a business guy. He went up into the mountains in the 80s because he liked to smoke things and was looking for stuff. He was a biology major at Western, and he found a pile of dung with like full animals in it, right? He thought that was cool. I wouldn't, but I'm also not a biologist. And so he scoops all this crap up, brings it to his professor, and his professor goes, "This is amazing. Where'd you get this?" "Well, I got it up in the mountains." "Could you get more of this?" Let's fast forward to today. He built a business out of this where he's the largest supplier of animal cadavers to colleges in the whole western half of the US, all of British Columbia, and then the manure is used for all kinds of stuff. He gets all his inventory for free. He hires avian people to follow the birds, to follow the owls, and owls have 2 stomachs. Again, I learn cool stuff, right? I know a lot about a lot, but I'm not a master in anything. And so they have 2 stomachs, and typically they'll eat an animal and it just goes right through and they don't fully digest it. So he built a freaking business out of this, and it's insane. Again, he doesn't have anybody to sell to. He doesn't have any, kids, and he's going to sell in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm getting him lined up with all the right people and get him ready for this. He's going to have a large liquidity event. A company like that is a gem to a private equity group because why? He doesn't, the CEO is replaceable. It doesn't matter whether he's there or not. It's just a machine that runs on its own. It's predictable cash flow, stable. Those are great investments, for anybody. And that's what, those kind of deals, they go for a lot. They're very, very attractive. Were you going to ask a question?
Yeah, quick question. Starting a business is tough, especially if you grow it organically. I guess, I'm always interested in buying an existing business, what you talked about, cash flows and everything. Now, what are you looking for from a buyer? I mean, they have to possess some kind of characteristics. You just don't want to bring somebody to a seller and say, "Hey, sell us this cat."
Sure. Sure.
You gotta have some kind of education on understanding financials. Doesn't mean you need to be a CPA, but you need to know how to look at an income statement, a balance sheet, tax returns, and be able to determine what the real number is. You can work with folks like myself, but even without us, you should have some sort of understanding. Like when I look at 3 years or 5 years of tax returns, I always get 5 years because 5 years of a business is about half of an economic cycle. So you're usually catching some kind of up-down trend, something where you can look at it and go, okay, now I can do a 5-year forecast looking forward and start doing my analysis. And really, you got 5 years backwards, 5 years forward, and you can kind of get a good gauge of what you're looking at. And then I always go worst case numbers. I always assume the worst and hope for the best. And if you're still okay with the worst case scenario, it sounds like a solid deal to look at. So to your, back to your question, buyers, you got to have the entrepreneurial spirit. You got to have that natural fire in the belly. I call it the intangibles. This is what I recruited when I was a hiring manager in banking. I only built teams of drivers, hunters is what I call them. I didn't want order takers. I wanted people that are willing to go out there. I don't need to motivate them to get up every day and go do the job. They're creative. They know how to get around, obstacles and make it happen. That's what I see in the most successful entrepreneurs. And they come from all walks of life. I've actually had a good amount of military folks. Most recently, a guy that was referred to me that he was like an ex-ranger or something. He was Delta Force. I can't remember what it was. And he had been in the military doing some crazy missions, but he was brilliant. And he always had these ideas in the technology realm, and he built this really cool technology that very successful. Now he's looking to expand, and so I'm going to be looking for other companies for him to buy. He was just motivated, motivated and fired up. And the things he didn't know, he either learned them or he surrounded himself with people that did know it. Because you can never know everything. You got to have a good circle of influence around you. And in the beginning, you don't necessarily have to have a ton of liquidity to do these things. I've seen so many of these entrepreneurs become successful with 401ks that they built, with low 6-figure amounts, or even less than that. And they recognized opportunities like that first company I mentioned. Really little, doesn't seem like it'd be much, right? But man, the things you can do with it, pretty amazing. So, did that answer your question?
Yes.
What other questions?
We'll drill down a little bit on that. So, the average Joe here that's been an employee or, struggling in his own startup forever and is kind of ready to get into business investing, wants to buy an existing business. All right, got the lead now. I figured out what I want to do, but what does he need to have when it comes to capital or access to lending or investors that will kind of, trust him to be the operations guy while they put the money into it and take on the risk. What does the average Joe do to start getting into this?
Networking. That's where the network is. Network is everything. I've been networking for 22 years, right? So I have this huge database, and I've kept it. I still use ACT. I don't know if anybody knows what ACT is.
Oh, yeah.
It's a dinosaur database, right? But I can't transfer all that damn information. I got to sit there, okay. So I just keep using ACT, and I've acquired so many, people. And I have them all broken down, investor, entrepreneurs, all kinds of different things, bankers, lawyers, everything, and that's how I've kept track of everything. And the network is so key. That's how I'm able to move a lot of these deals and get stuff done, because I have access to people. And I don't need to list companies. I don't need to go on the websites and do all that stuff. If I do, the listing is going to be very vague, because you don't put a for sale sign up in front of a business, right? What happens to all your employees? Oh God, everything's going to end. And sometimes if it's a service-based business, guess where all your value is? In your people. If you owned a real estate firm and you were going to sell it, what happens if all your people leave? It's not worth anything, right? Because it's all about the agents that are there. So you don't want to put that information out there. All kinds of corporate espionage happens, right? People poach your talent, everything. So everything I do is like behind closed doors and really secretive. But the network it's key. Go to some of the things I told you about when you start deciding what industries you want to look at. Get into those organizations. Go to networking events. Outside of that, there's all kinds of entrepreneur networks too, and investor networks. You can, again, look a lot of these up. This is how I found a lot of them when I started doing this years ago. And I started networking. Young Professionals Network, which I don't really know if that's key for this. They're like 40 and under, but when I started in YPN ended up having speakers come in that were older, and they weren't part of YPN, but they were valuable people to hear from and listen to. And then I started asking them, what kind of networks are you in? What kind of organizations are you involved in? I just started following all these people. And, go ahead.
A network in Tacoma called Angel Network.
Yeah, I'm part of Angel, yep. I actually do due diligence for Keiretsu and the Alliance of Angels. And yeah, those are, again, good networks too. So you have Keiretsu, you have Alliance of Angels, you have TIE, Seattle, and then SWAN. Those are the top 4 angel groups in Washington. And most of them have groups across the US. So if you go into like Keiretsu, for instance, Keiretsu's pretty big, and they've got, I think, 300 or 400 accredited investors that are here locally. And accredited investor is defined as somebody, they have to fill out a questionnaire. I think they have to make over 250 grand a year, household income, and a certain level of liquidity. Then they're considered accredited. And then they can join these groups and then come listen to all these startups pitch. Well, the investors, they're there to check out these startups, but a lot of these investors are current business owners now, or they were, and they were successful, and they sold the business, made a boatload of money, and now they kind of want to give back and make some money on their investment. But they like current operating businesses too. It doesn't mean they only do startups. And so I've gotten a lot of angel investors to just be regular investors, just private investors is what we call them, where they go, man, the cash flow is what, and my cash on cash return is what. When they're doing a startup, the average angel investment return they don't expect a return for 7 years. If they get a return, right? A good percent of them don't work out. But 7 years is when they go, okay, I think I should start seeing a return on my money, right? When you invest in an already operating business that's generating cash flow, when's their return start? Now, typically, on the deals that I've done. So it's a less risky investment for them, and it makes a lot more sense.
All right, I'm ready to buy the, oh, I'm sorry.
One industry sector is the diet weight loss sector. It's just absolutely huge, and it's going to be around forever because we continue to have weight issues in this country, But it's just so fragmented with so many different things. And are you seeing any niches in that area now? Are there any trends that would be an opportunity going forward for investors?
Coconut water. Killing it.
Yeah.
I got a guy who's got 2 farms in Thailand. And it worked out for him because his partner is married into the royal family in Thailand. So they don't have any red tape, right? So I just learned all this last summer. That industry is just taken off. It's already generating like 1.8 billion in revenues, and it's expected to grow like 15% over the course of the next 3 years. It's pretty big. And so what he did is he got invested in, you know, these coconut farms, and they're doing coconut water, and they're already tied into Costco and all kinds of other places, and bringing it all over this direction. That's huge. The supplement world is pretty big, but depending on how you get set up, if you're manufacturing your own stuff, your margins are pretty solid. If you're not, and you're buying and you're just redistributing or something, you know, private labeling, putting your own name on it or something, the margins are usually pretty slim, so it's a volume game. But that's more in the medical side of things, like what my client's doing with
Well,
the
that
image
client's
centers.
going to acquire the 30 standing salons.
Mm-hmm.
I would think a natural addition to that might be weight loss, you know, help.
He's looking at all kinds of things. I mean, he's this kind of broad spectrum thinker, right? You know, a lot of entrepreneurs will just be so laser focused and tunnel vision on one thing, where you miss all these other things off to the side. So he's even looking at, he's got cannabis guys approaching him to sell all the THC oils and all these other things, and the margins in that business are just, don't even get me started on that world. It's ridiculous. And so he's like, yeah, I can put that on my shelves, you know, and so there's a lot of avenues. I don't have all the answers, but you have to decide what you're passionate about, what industries sound really interesting to you, because all of them can generate really good cash flow. Just depends how you go about making it happen.
And what do you think about the franchise markets? You know, there's so many different franchises out there now.
Yeah, franchises, I'm a fan and not a fan. I've seen some work out really well, and I've seen others as just horrible, right? I had a guy who owned 15 Subways, and he did pretty well. You know, it's like 30 grand a Subway is what their kind of model is. It's like every one you own, you're gonna net $30,000. He ended up making it almost doubled that net, just because he's a very savvy business guy. He wasn't formally educated, just savvy. You know, he didn't have a degree, nothing. Came from India, and just an intelligent guy, and bought a bunch of them and just started. He got investors, he got friends and family money first, and then he got a couple private investors, and he built a pretty nice little enterprise that's generating 7 figures a year in bottom line income, you know, off of 15 Subways.
So it sounds like it might be a good idea for, you know, anybody here who's interested in getting started in this, but doesn't have $50,000 in the bank waiting to just go ahead and buy a company that's kind of, you know, getting going. Pooling with others and kind of saying, hey, let's go do this together. Let's be an investment group. You know, we want to buy a business. We've recognized the industry, or we've recognized the deal, the company, but we're going to have to pool our money together to make it happen. Is that what you see happening a lot, or does this work better when you have kind of one person or a partnership?
Combination of all of the above. And so we talked a little bit about financing earlier. There's a lot of ways to do this. Like I said, 20% of my deals are bank financed. I thought it was going to be way more than that, because I'm a pretty savvy banker, so I figured, I'll figure out all these ways to finance these deals, because that's what I did as a banker. That's kind of how I built my practice and separated myself from my competition. Is I knew how to do acquisition deals, where most bankers run from it. You go into a bank and you go, hey, I want to buy a business. They go, SBA, here, fill out all this paperwork, right? You know, and they don't even really understand how to make it happen, when you can do them so many other ways. And so in what you just mentioned, I'm actually working through one right now that's just going to be a seller carry. So the guy doesn't need a big capital injection at the moment. And actually, if he got it, he'd be screwed tax-wise. He needs a structured earn-out. And so what we did is we looked at the company, and I broke down the numbers for these two guys, and these two individuals that want to buy it, and I said, I said, the cash flow, pretty stable. Here's what the numbers look like. If you pay him on an earn-out, here's what your bottom line is going to look like. Where can you add value to this company? You know, and that was the first question I had for these guys. And they went, oh God, well, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And then we started kind of bringing in all these other synergies, and I went, shoot, you're going to be paying him with his own money over the course of the next 5 years. And in the first 3 months, they're going to be increasing the margin on the business pretty significantly with their strategy and their plan. So really, they're getting this business. They're not putting any money down. They're doing a 100% seller carryback. And we'll probably be able to wipe out the seller if we wanted to in 2 years with bank financing, because they'll have 2 years of operating the company, doing well, and then we could go in and refinance it or something and pay off the seller note. But that one worked out where it's just 100% seller carry, and it actually was best for everybody involved at the table.
Wouldn't having seller carryback be a detriment to the buyer the seller is always gonna be in the business, right? Always getting his hands in it.
Depends how you write it up, right? So if I'm going to take investor money, do I want passive investors or do I want investors that are hands-on? I don't know. I can't answer that question for you, but I can tell you this, me personally, I want passive investors. I'm raising money for a company right now that they do really cool technology in stereo sound and like acoustics and everything. Well, guess who one of their top clients are? Vulcan, right? Okay, Vulcan Ventures, that's Paul Allen. They went in and they did the sound for the whole amphitheater. They're doing all the speakers now in Bentley from 2018 on. So Bentley's going to be every Bentley. Peugeot, which is a huge car company. It's not in the U.S. anymore. They left a while back, but Peugeot is like in the top 10 in the world, right? So every Peugeot car is going to have their stereo equipment in it, right? So this company's doing well. It's growing. It's getting some good people to back them. I said, why don't you go to Paul Allen? He goes, have you ever met Paul Allen? I go, no, I'd like to. He goes, yeah, you don't want him being one of your investors because Paul Allen knows everything. He's the best at everything, right? And he's going to tell you what you're going to do, or he's not going to invest his money. That's not a passive investor. And obviously the guy's brilliant, but really how much does he know about stereo equipment, right? But it sounds like he knows everything, about everything. And I've met so many successful investors that are like that. Well, I kicked butt and I made all these millions and yeah, I know what's best for your business. You got lucky because the economy did this and yeah, you got a windfall. That's not skill. It is, I mean, some of it, but it's not some valuable piece of knowledge they're adding. So it depends. The seller, this particular seller is not going to have any involvement. He's done. Like he's 74 years old. He doesn't want to mess with it anymore. He's ready to go. He's like, oh, perfect. Yeah, you guys are going to save me some tax money too. Great, And he doesn't. His name's not on any leases. They're going to secure a new location, everything. So really, not that big of a deal for him. But if they failed, obviously he's got to take it back. But he'd probably just let it run into the ground. Honestly, So yeah.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on with some mentors and some assistants, and this is a hot topic now. Reintegration for guys getting out of prison.
Okay.
I've done it for the government. I've proven success. The issue is the government. So now, because it's a hard sell, because there's no instant return that you can say, if you invest this, you're going to get this money back. What would be a good, other than, I know that there's a lot of anthropology type, just people that are willing to invest for, things for the better good. And the reason I'm thinking, because you mentioned Angel Network, and I'd never heard of that.
Yep.
But would that be a route for me to go to get some financing or some investment to get an agency like that off the ground?
Possibly. So an angel by definition is somebody that's investing in a startup and they're going to look for a return 7 years down the road, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't mean that's all they do.
Okay.
I mean, if you have something that tugs at their heartstrings, maybe they had a family member that used to, they were incarcerated.
That's
And,
kind of what I'm betting on.
yeah.
It touches everyone now, especially with the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that I'm trying to go into it with, the more I learn about business, is what I want to do that's unique to the next person. I don't want a 6-month program. I want to have, and I mean, by accident actually, I have guys that basically I gave them the track that I did back to success. And now it's a year later, and he's called me, he's going from junior college to a 4-year college.
Nice.
So it's really duplicable. But I have to develop these people. And the other thing is, it's all so fragmented.
Your best route would be to go a nonprofit.
Yeah, we're right.
Create a nonprofit, and then now you've got lots of folks that there are nonprofit organizations, right, that you can go meet with. You can go into, oh God, I just gave somebody this information and I can't remember the dang name. Maybe I can circle it back to Thomas and you can shoot out. But it's an online database that you can get into and has every single nonprofit everywhere, right? But you just go into Washington, you pull up, there are lots of different filters you can do. And this is how I had this set up for my team at KeyBank in my last job to go get nonprofit lending business. And what you have is everything. So you have the nonprofit 990, that's their tax return, is listed on these sites. And on those 990s, you see who all their top contributors are, donators. And their numbers are there, so you can call them up. Our private banking group used the same database to get endowments, set up with these folks. And then as bankers, we were looking at the debt that these nonprofits carried, and we were just, we saw all the terms, and hey, let's refinance your stuff and give us access to everything. I just can't remember the name of.
GuideStar.
What is it?
GuideStar?
Yeah, yep, that's the one.
Just spell just how it sounds?
Yep.
Thank you.
You have access to anything you would ever want about a nonprofit, and in something like that, you're gonna probably want to set up a 501c3, I would guess. And now you start getting into that network where you're just going to functions with all these folks that want to give back. They're liquid and they want to do stuff to help. And lots of people are probably going to be passionate about that. It's again the network, right?
Tell your story, have a great elevator speech.
Well, yeah, I graduate this June with my master's. So
Nice.
I used it to get me through the government system, so I know their inner workings and what it takes. But yeah, I was their poster child till I graduated. It was okay for me.
Well, and as vets, man, you guys have
And I'm a vet.
yeah, you have a lot of things available to you that the rest of us don't.
Yeah.
You just have to take advantage of it. You got to do the research and look at all the different programs because you can get grant money, all kinds of stuff.
Well, actually, that's what I do. I work with incarcerated vets from prison. When I leave here today, I'm going to a work release
Okay.
to get the new guy and put him on the path.
Nice. Yeah, that could be a great nonprofit that could get a lot of support for sure.
Thanks.
What else? What else do you guys want to know?
What do you wish that new investors knew?
What do I wish that new investors knew?
Yeah, about getting this, like, what are the big mistakes that people come along and say, hey, we want to start buying businesses, or we want to do this, and it shoots them down every time.
So you're talking about entrepreneurs then?
Yeah.
Okay. Entrepreneurs, gosh, man.
Or even just investors that want to get into the game.
Yeah.
They're trying to buy a business, or they're trying to buy businesses or get into the investment game, and just they just don't know enough.
They don't know what they don't know, right?
Right.
I would say you got to surround yourself with a solid, circle of influence of people, really, because the things you don't know, the questions you don't know to ask, they will.
So if you me, I'm literally starting a new life. Decent job, but if you had 10,000, because you don't have the credit, but you got 10,000 cash, legitimate, and you want to join a group or invest in something, how would you go? Or I'm assuming that's not enough to get you in the game by yourself. Mm-hmm. Would you look for a group to invest with, or?
You know what? You say that's not enough to get you in the
I don't
game by
know,
yourself,
yeah.
right? So I met a guy who owns a scrap metal yard. He started it with $10,000. He's netting 7 figures a year, and it's 6 years later. And the guy's a grinder. He looks like a scrapyard guy. Like and you talk to him. Like when I talk to him, it's just straight to business. What's going on? Right. Yeah, okay, cool. Bye. Yeah. I'm always like, I keep my distance, man. I got to be clean. No, but that's what he did. He started $10,000, and he bought a scrap metal yard from a guy, an older gentleman that was exiting, and just didn't run it like a business, use it like a personal piggy bank, right? And just the company didn't show anything, so he had like negative retained earnings. He couldn't prove a lot of value, right? So he gave the guy $10,000 and told him he'd pay him another $75,000 over the course of the year to walk away, and he did. And this guy's younger. He's like 35 now, 36, but he bought it when he was like 30 or 29.
So he just negotiated that he would just pay him X amount every month off of whatever he bought in.
Yeah.
So he really didn't have to.
Until he got
Yeah.
to
It's
70.
basically a seller carry. Just
Exactly.
10,000 to kind of.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can. That's the silly thing about this is you can. Now, do those deals come about all the time? No. But you got to search. Like he had been searching for 2 years, and then he found this opportunity, and he liked scrap metal. That was just kind of what he understood, and that's what he went after. So, these deals happen. They do. And if you are networking and you meet people that you connect with, you vibe with them, right? And it works. Maybe they'll have the faith to invest in you. I call it betting on the jockey, not the horse, right? And so it's like, okay, yeah, you're a winning jockey. I don't really care what horse you're going to ride. It can be Seabiscuit or Warhorse. You're going to win. I just believe in you, and that's what you want. That's what you want from the investors, and you have to figure out a way to give them that belief in you. And it needs to be something you're passionate about, that you've done your research on, your education, and you've got a plan. Again, You know, you got to have your strategy. People can get behind a plan and a strategy as long as they can follow it. If you say, hey, I'm going to change the world, okay, how are you going to do it? I'm just going to do it. Okay. You want me to give you how much? You know, I don't make investment decisions that way. So there are, again, like I said, there are many ways, there are 100 ways to skin a cat. You just have to figure out really what direction do you want to run and what industries do you want to focus on, and then go. Sounds like you have your plan, I mean, for your...
We're working.
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be a brilliant nonprofit, and you could get a lot of people behind that.
Okay. Any more questions? None? Hey, Rahsaan, thank you, man. I appreciate it, man.
Was this valuable information?
Bringing your earphones?
Yeah, I've left them in the car. I'm gonna go grab them. I'm gonna run down. I'll come back.
Yeah,
My car's in.
but anyway, you know, I'm glad you're here because, you know, if you guys can think hard and work hard, you can make lemonade and chicken salad, right? I mean, this is America. This is what it's all about. But again, what Rahsaan was saying is that it doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 company. If you're okay making $200,000, $130,000 a year, and having a manager or whatever working the company, I would take it. You know, I would.
There are a lot of
There's a lot
operational,
of
yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of them out there right now. The baby boomers, they don't have a succession plan, guys. You know, make chicken salad, right? Don't stress yourself out and start a business from the ground up. This is another opportunity for you guys. But, you know, here at Vibe, we'd like to give you something for your participation, and Jen's gonna laugh because she got one of these too. So this is the bottle opener for your weekend. And,
I don't drink, so this is great.
Yeah, you can give that to somebody else, but
I like it.
Ginger ale, yeah, but coffee cup with the Tacoma on it. So
Nice.
anyway, but we got to change the swag for next year. But thank again, all of you, for coming, and I want this to be a learning environment for you to think outside the box, okay? And next week, if you guys can make it, please make it, because next week's going to be really entertaining with Noel Shillito. He's a longtime bankruptcy attorney. It's kind of weird, you know, you're buying a business, now you're going bankrupt.
Good transition, right?
Good transition, but it's not that. It's an ability to analyze a business from a different viewpoint. Because here's a successful business. What happened from the beginning to the end? What happened in the middle? You can learn a lot from that too. So please join us next week, and that'll be the last one for the spring quarter. So thanks again.
Oh yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys.